Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Sneha for CELPIP and IELTS, and in today's video we are going to practice listening module of CELPIP. Now if you've been following my previous videos over there, we have already discussed task 1, 2 and 3 of listening module. Today we are going to focus on task 4 of listening module. I hope you have pen and paper with you, because in this class we are surely going to focus on notes making. That is something that we do in our videos, in our classes for sure. So when we talk about part 4 of listening, it's actually part 4, sorry, it's been written incorrectly as part 3 over here. Today we are going to focus on part 4. It's not part 3, sorry. It's part 4, which is listening to news item. Now, in this part 4 of CELPIP listening, now there are some changes from part 4 onwards in CELPIP listening. And the changes are that now this part 4, this is going to be a monologue. It's not going to be a dialogue anymore. Now if you watch previous videos related to listening part 1, part 2 and part 3, over there we did practice dialogues as audios in those tasks. But here in part 4, it is listening to a news item, which is a monologue. That means there will be a speaker, the speaker will be reading out a news item. So it's going to be only one speaker. That is why the name is monologue. And here what happens is, now your questions, they are in written form from this part onwards. So if you remember, we discussed this thing in the previous audio, in the previous videos as well, that in part 1, 2 and 3 of listening, what happens is that your questions, they are also in the form of audio. But here the questions, they will be written as text. So you can reread the question any number of times as you want. But again, the time limit that's there for each of the questions, that remains same. So again, you're given only 30 seconds to answer one question. All right, so duration to answer the question, that remains the same. It's just that your questions, these will be in the form of text now, not in the form of audio anymore. And these are some things related to part 4, that is listening to news item. So here what happens is, as I said, you will hear a monologue, and that is from a local news report. So it will be kind of a news report. The speaker will be reading it out and it's a monologue. Now, we know that whenever we talk about news, news is nothing but kind of a story going on, right? It's kind of a sequence that's being narrated, right? That first this happened, then that happened, after that this thing happened. So it's kind of a story going on, right? So here again, the news will be in the form of a story most of the times, and this story, this news, that will be followed by 5 questions. So in total, you will have 5 questions after this part. And as I said, you will have 30 seconds to answer each question after the audio has ended. Now, talking about news item. So, if you have watched my previous videos, now in our previous videos, we have focused a lot on notes making. So we are going to do something related to notes making here as well. Now, notes making in this video, it's kind of a non-negotiable thing. I would strongly recommend that you do note making in part 4 of CELPIP listening. You have to do it. If you want to maintain accuracy, you should do it. All right. So now, when we talk about notes making for this news item, so it's a monologue, right? So you need not divide your page into 2 columns or anything. You will just write whatever the speaker is saying in the audio. So you'll write it in the form of bullet points in your notes page. Other than that, now the thing comes to that, what exactly are you supposed to write? So the things that you have to write down when listening to the audio will be, first of all, remember and try to focus on what is the topic of the news or headline of the news. If there is any headline, try to focus on that to understand basically what this news item is about. So that should be your priority. Then, because as I said, that this news, it's kind of a story that's going on, right? So try to understand the sequence. Sequence is something that you should definitely focus on. And by sequence, I mean that first this thing happened, after that this thing happened, then that happened. So whatever the sequence is going on, note it down. And since it's a news, sometimes a news can also be about some figures, some details related to someone's name, some place, right? So if in your news item there is any figure, any data, that should be there in your notes. If there is mention of any person, there is any name that appears in the news, write it down. Focus on any other detail that's there in the news. So your major focus will be on the details of the news. What the news is about. Is there any person in it? Is there, any location? Is there any data figure that's there in it? So focus on those things. And lastly, if there is any kind of announcement for the future related to this news, let's say the news is about a local neighborhood and the mayor of neighborhood, he announces something towards the end of the audio. So that announcement, that decision should be noted down for sure. So these are the things that you're going to focus on. And again, I would like to stress on this thing that when I talk about notes making, please only write down the keywords. And even if you're in your keywords, you should be focusing on using abbreviations, on using symbols instead of complete words. So make use only of keywords. Do not write grammatical words. You have to avoid writing down the grammatical words. So, keeping these things in mind, let's begin the discussion of part 4. Are you ready? All right, let's do it. Now, this is a news item, and as the instruction says, this news item is about an area resident. So let's listen to this news item. All right, I hope you have pen and paper with you. If not, please, you can pause the video, go and grab your pen and paper and start with the audio. All right, let's do it.
Daisy, a dog owned and cherished by Deb Fitherstone, went missing Thursday night. Fitherstone had arranged for Daisy to be looked after by a neighbor. However, instead of just letting the dog out occasionally throughout the day as instructed, the neighbor took Daisy to her home nearby for some extended company. Unfortunately, the dog wandered away. The dog is elderly, and confusion and fatigue likely played a role in its inability to find its way back either to the neighbor's house or back home. A frantic search by both the neighbor and, upon her return, Deb, was unsuccessful. The next day, seeing the missing dog posters on telephone poles, Genevieve Genero put her own dog's excellent nose to the test. While on their daily walk, Genevieve said enthusiastically to Snookums, "Go find Daisy. Where's Daisy? Where is she?" Snookums, who did not know Daisy, did understand the enthusiasm of "Go find" and "Where is?" Half an hour later, after finding several half-finished fast food meals, Snookums led Genevieve off the road into the bush to Daisy, curled up in a hole, uninjured but unable to climb back out. Daisy and Deb were successfully reunited, and Daisy is doing well.
All right, so let's begin with the questions now. All right, so Our first question here is, the neighbor decided to take Daisy home with her because. So if you listen to the news very carefully, you must be knowing this thing, that this news was about, first of all, about a dog that got lost. The name of the dog is Daisy, right? And over there in the beginning, Deb Featherstone was the owner of the dog. That was very clearly mentioned, and it was said that the owner left the dog at home and asked neighbor to take care of it, right? And the owner basically asked the neighbor to come to his house and just, make sure that everything is fine with the dog, right? But what did the neighbor do? Instead, the neighbor took the dog to her house. And since the dog was elderly, what happened, that the dog got confused. It could not find its way back home and got lost, right? So there was one reason given that why this neighbor decided to take the dog with her, and the reason was to give Daisy some extended company, to give the poor dog, it was literally said, to give the poor dog some extended company. So when we say that the neighbor wanted to give the poor dog some extended company, that means the neighbor felt sorry for the dog. Oops. So the neighbor felt sorry for the dog being alone all day, right? The audio very clearly said that she felt sorry for the poor dog and wanted to give some extended company. So that means she felt sorry for the dog being alone all day. Not that Daisy tried to follow her home. No, Daisy did not follow the neighbor. Daisy enjoyed being at her house. No, Daisy did not enjoy being at her house. There was nothing as such mentioned in the audio. She was tired of coming to the house all day. No, the neighbor was not tired or anything. She just took the dog to her house. That's it. That was very clearly said in the audio. If you didn't listen to that part of the audio while it was being played, please go back to the audio. You can listen to the audio once again to make sure that this part is completely understood. All right. Now let's come to question number 2. It's the report indicates that Snookums eats a lot of garbage. Snookum goes for several walks a day. Snookums is friends with Daisy, and Snookums is good at tracking by scent. Now again, you had to listen to the details for this question. So something out of these four options is true for Snookums as per the news report. So Snookums definitely did not eat a lot of garbage. Yes, he was eating a meal of the day, that was said in the audio, but nothing related to eating garbage was there. Definitely completely off the topic it is. Then Snookums goes for several walks a day. We don't know that. Yes, Snookums was there on the walk with the owner, but we do not know whether this dog goes for several walks a day or not. That was not at all discussed in the audio. C is Snookums is friends with Daisy. Snookums does not know Daisy, according to the news item. They just saw the poster of the missing dog. Snookums' owner, Genevieve, she saw the poster of this missing dog, and then she asked her dog Snookums to find it. They were definitely not friends. And Snookums is good at tracking by scent. Yes, this is the correct answer. Now, why? The reason is it was mentioned in the audio that Genevieve, the owner of Snookums, she put Snookums' excellent nose to test. So putting dog's nose to test means asking the dog to track something by scent. So yes, definitely Snookums is good at tracking by scent. Again, you can go back to the audio if you did not listen to this part, replay the audio and then come back to this question. So now let's move on to question number 3. Question number 3 is the report suggests that Daisy. Now, what is true about Daisy out of these? That Daisy knew her way home. Daisy was missing overnight. Daisy was found by her owner. Daisy found her friend Snookums. Now, Daisy definitely didn't know her way home. If she did, she would have reached back home, right? Which she did not. And the audio very clearly said that the confusion and fatigue that might have taken over. So definitely she could not find her way back to home. Daisy was missing overnight. Yes, that's the correct option. The audio very clearly mentions that she was missing Thursday. Went missing Thursday night, and then the posters they were put on the next morning by the owner and the neighbor, right? So yes, she was definitely missing overnight. And Daisy was found by her owner. No, Snookums found Daisy. So that option becomes wrong. And Daisy found her friend Snookums. No, actually, Snookums found Daisy and they were not friends. So this option also becomes incorrect. So we have already solved these three questions. Now let us have a look at question number 4. It says the news report ends with, as I mentioned, if you remember that the ending of the audio is very important. So in the ending, you have to focus on what's there. Like, is there any kind of announcement, any decision there in the end of the audio? So you have to focus on that. And this question is directly from the end of the audio. So the news report ends with a resolution, a regret, a call for help, or a recommendation. Now the news item ends with this thing that Snookums found Daisy. That was the ending. That owner was reunited with his dog, right? Now, it ends with not a regret. They were reunited. A call for help, no. They were reunited. A recommendation, there was no recommendation but a resolution. Why? Because the problem got resolved at the end. So when the problem that was finding the dog Daisy, that gets resolved, that means the news report, it ends with a resolution. So that would be the correct answer. So you have to focus on the ending of the news. Now question number 5 is, the news item is about an unfortunate dog, an irresponsible dog owner, a new dog sitting service, or a professional dog walker. Now the main point of discussion in the news was, what do you think was the main point of discussion? Was it the owner, any dog sitting service, a dog walker, or an unfortunate dog? The majority of the news item was about Daisy that went missing, a dog that went missing, right? So the correct answer here would be an unfortunate dog. It was not about dog owner. He was a part of the news. It was not about any dog sitting survey. It's like completely off the topic. A professional dog walker, again, it's completely off the topic. These two were not even there in the audio. And out of A and B, it was more about the dog than the dog owner, right? So this is how you have to solve listening part 4. So remember, listen to the details of the audio, listen to the details of the news. What is the news about? What's the sequence? You have to focus on the story, and then towards the end of the report, how does it end? So that should be your point of focus. And if you still have any confusion, if you still have any doubt, you can type all your doubts in the comment section and I'll try to answer each and every doubt over there. All right. So that is it for the day. I'll be coming with many more videos for you people. We will be discussing many more questions and literally all the modules of CELPIP and IELTS. So keep on watching my videos, keep liking them, sharing them, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it so far, and I'll meet you all in the next class with something new to discuss with you so that you are one step closer to your band score. Till then, let's call it a day. All right, I'll meet you all in the next class. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.